Welcome to Brick by Brick. Join me, Loren, as I share my personal journey of building a thriving real estate and hard money lending business from the ground up. Along the way, we'll explore the strategies, challenges, and breakthroughs that come with growing wealth. Whether you're a seasoned investor or aspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the world of private lending and real estate, this podcast is packed with actionable insights, real-world stories, and mindset tips to help you build your own path to success brick by brick. Welcome to another episode of Brick by Brick. I'm your host, Loren. Today you've got a solo episode, just me, and I want to talk about a topic that a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions on, and I think is incredibly important for people that are trying to amass a significant amount of wealth, start a business, or just get out of their 9-to-5 job. That topic is failure. So today I want to talk about the 5 things that people get wrong about failure on almost a daily basis. So number 5 of my top 5 things that people get wrong about failure is that failing makes you a failure. A lot of people have this thought in their head that if they go into something and they fail at it, meaning that they don't succeed in what their intended outcome is, that they are then a failure. And they internalize that as part of their personality. And they have such an innate fear of that they will not even take the next step into trying the thing because they don't want to be a failure at it. I think the funny thing about that is if you go and try something and fail miserably to the point where you have to totally give up and go back to where you were at the beginning, you're at the exact same spot as you were if you never tried, except for if you tried, you learned something. So you are farther ahead if you try something, fail at it, and then have to start all over. As a lot of you know, my family is heavily involved in travel baseball. So we watch a lot of baseball. We play a lot of baseball. And I want to talk about failure as it relates to baseball because I think it's directly related to business. So in baseball, the best hitter in all of history was Ty Cobb. Now, Ty Cobb's batting average for his entire career was that means that 63% of the time that he went up to the plate, he either struck out, got out, or was walked. And if you think about that in the context of most things in life, if I fail at doing something or I don't succeed at what I'm trying to do 63% of the time, that is a huge failure. That's a F grade. But in baseball, he is the best hitter that ever hit. He is in the Hall of Fame. He is, from the 20s or 30s, and people still know who he is. And so we have to stop thinking about failure as if I fail, I am a failure, and start thinking about failure as what will I learn and how can I help myself move forward to where I want to get to by taking these steps. Number 4, successful people rarely fail. Perception is that if someone is extremely successful, whether they've got a business that's huge and growing, they have tons of money, they have something, that they are very rarely failing at the things they're trying. And in reality, the people that are the most successful have tried and failed the absolute most. Now, I'm not putting myself into that category of most successful, but what I can say is when I was first getting started in business, our first business, my wife and I's, was an Amazon FBA business. The concept was you buy products at a discount and then you sell them on Amazon for a higher price and make a margin. Now, we did that for about 9 months. And during that time, we had several products that we purchased and that either we broke even on or we lost money on. We had several products that we made a bunch of money on. But at the end of the day, the margins were just too slim for us to continue doing it for the amount of time that it was taking to do it and where we saw the trajectory of that business long term. And so we decided to shut that business down. Now, I thought of myself and I thought of that business as an overall failure because the goal of that business was to develop a decent sized business, to amass a certain amount of money, to be able to buy rentals, to pay off student loan debt. And we didn't accomplish either of those things. And so in my mind, we did not accomplish the set objective that we had. And so the business was a failure. Looking back, what that business really did was it teach me about some of the structure of business. It showed me that there are so many different entrepreneurial opportunities out there. It shifted the lens in which I look at the world through, and it converted my mindset from 9 to 5 employee to entrepreneur. And that was probably one of the biggest shifts that I ever went through in my entire life. And it is because of that shift through that failed business that I am where I am today. Number 3, as you get rich and successful, the things that you fail at will decrease, the level of stress that you have will decrease, and everything will get easier. We have all these grand visions in our society of these rich people that fly on jets and they sit by the pool and they have not a care in the world. And that's just simply not the case. In reality, as you grow and as you mature as a business owner, you don't have less stress. You don't have less failures. You just have different problems, different stressors, different failures. A great example of this is when I first bought my first rental property. I remember being extremely stressed out during the renovation phase because my contractors needed a certain amount of material in order to do the work that they needed to do to keep the project on schedule. And so I was working my 9 to 5 still. And so I was driving at 5 in the morning up to Lowe's, buying that material, getting it delivered to the job site before the crew would get there, and then getting myself to my job in time to start the day. It was incredibly stressful trying to keep all the things going. And looking back, I can think of about a dozen different ways that I could have done that differently to alleviate that stress on myself. And honestly, today, that doesn't even seem like that big of a problem. I would just say, oh, just do this, that, and that, and it's taken care of, and I move on with my life. Fast forwarding 5 years, I'm obviously past that. I would know how to solve that solution currently very, very simply. Today, now my issues are, okay, I have a closing coming up in 4 days, and I have 5 investors that are bringing capital into that deal, and I need to make sure all of those monies show up. And now instead of worrying about $400 worth of materials, I'm worried about making sure $1 million shows up into an account at the right time to make sure that my borrower expectations are met, my investors are taken care of, and we're making sure all of our accounting and everything is kept up very, very tight to meet our standards. So same amount of stress, just totally different problems. And in 5 years from now, I'm sure I will look back on the problems I have right now and think that, oh, I would have just done X, Y, and Z. That problem would have been solved. And I will have a whole new set of problems that A, I don't have the right to think about right now. And B, I can't even comprehend because I'm not to that level in business yet. Number 2, if you fail, you should just quit. And you're never going to be good at that thing. There is a very large thought process that goes through a lot of people's minds that I will try this thing, and if I fail at it, then I suck at it and I should stop doing it. And I think this is one of the biggest things that someone needs to get over when they're first getting into business, that it is not whether you do something and fail. If you are doing something new that you have never done before, the odds are that you are going to fail, because there are a lot of things that you just don't know. There are a lot of things that you know you don't know. And there's a lot of things that you don't know you don't know. And so to go into something that you've never done before, you've got no experience at, and assume you're going to be successful is a flawed way of thinking. Well, you should go into it thinking that I'm going to go into this, I'm going to do everything I can to fail as little as possible. But when I do fail, and I will fail, then I need to shift, adjust, learn, and then keep moving forward. If we think about like where we are, I'm standing up currently. Almost all of you probably can walk. When we were all babies, none of us could walk. And through a series of a lot of failure, we all took steps, we fell down, we failed. We got up, we tried again, we took steps, we fell down, until eventually we stood up and we didn't fall down. And that is what we need to do as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people trying to build wealth, is continue to make attempts, fail, try, learn, try again, until we get to the point where we are not failing as often anymore and we're having new challenges, right? First we learn to walk, then we learn to run, and so on. So a great example, historical example of this, of someone that did not quit. In 1921, a young entrepreneur in Kansas City started a movie production company called Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Now, he had really grand ambitions for this studio, but between his overambitious projects, his lack of financial control, his high production cost, in just 2 years, his company went bankrupt. Now, what I just talked about, at this point, he should have just failed. He should have given up on his dreams. He should have gone and got a normal job, right? Worked for someone else because he obviously wasn't good at business. Well, he, good for all of us, did not do that. He moved broke with no money and no connections to Hollywood, California, and started his second company. That company today has a market cap of $201 billion. Walt Disney had not, if Walt Disney had quit when he failed that first company, none of our lives or childhoods would be the same as what they have been. So we cannot quit whenever we fail. We take the learning and we move forward. And the number one misconception that people have about failure is that failure is a bad thing. I always say that you don't fail, you learn. And that failure isn't an event, failure is a mindset. So there's so much stigma around failure. If I fail, I'm a failure. We talked about that already. If I fail, then people will think less of me. People will look down on me. I don't want to tell people about my failures. Well, the truth of the matter is that anybody that has amassed any amount of success in their life has gone through so much failure that they don't look down on people that are failing. The only people that look down on people that are failing are those that aren't willing to try anything new. They're just coasting along with their lives. And so you're doing something different than what they're doing. And then when you fail, they take that as a sign of they're doing the right thing by not pushing themselves, by not trying to get better, by not trying to improve their long-term financial stability. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, of those two groups, the people that are just mediocre, are floating along, or the people that are striving to do better, are striving to grow their business, or striving to grow their wealth, people that we all are looking up to, which of those groups do you care about them looking down on you? The people that aren't making changes in the world, that are mediocre, their opinion of me doesn't matter near as much as what my opinion of myself is when I'm 5 years older, or 10 years older, and 20 years older. Those are the 5 biggest things that people get wrong about failure. If you got value out of this, share the video and like and subscribe to the videos. We post this kind of content every week. And thank you for your time. And we'll see you next week on Brick by Brick. Thanks for tuning in to Brick by Brick Wealth Building Conversations. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find the show. For more tips, resources, and updates on my journey, follow me on Invest with Loren. Let's keep building wealth, one brick at a time. See you next week.